I have 3 rounds. We're going to have the initial presentations of the countries, followed with some statements, and followed also later on with some questions from our sides. I'll give now the floor to Mr. Kabas to start the first part of the moderation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Efthimiopoulos. Thank you all for being with us. After the very interesting fire chat discussion among Mr. Prevelakis and Mr. Efthimiopoulos, now we're going to do some more deep diving in some quite interesting areas, which is the Balkans and the Middle East, as well, of course, as the perspective both from FAO and the European Environmental Agency that gives a much more wider image of the issues about the agri-food geopolitics in the Balkans, the Black Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean. So, unfortunately, we will not have the Romanian ambassador with us, but I will have the privilege to coordinate and give the speech to the ladies of this panel, first of all, in order, first of all, to cover the Balkans and the European perspective, and afterwards to cover the Middle East and the FAO perspective. So I would like to start with Mrs. Luela Hajdaraga, sorry. I'm sorry about that. And please, I would like you to have the presentation. For 7 minutes, you will have the floor to talk about the agri-food geopolitics in the Balkans and the Eastern Mediterranean. Please,
distinguished colleagues, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and pleasure to be here today at the AgriBusiness Forum. I would like to warmly thank the organizer of this forum and the chair, Mr. Yanni Balakakis, and all the other ones that have contributed to this wonderful forum. Today, as we discuss agri-food system in the new geopolitical environment, we are reminded that agriculture is far more than production. It is about resilience, stability, and the connections that unite our countries and our people. We meet at a time of the global change. Conflicts, shifts in trade and markets, rising energy costs, and climate pressure shape the way world grows, moves, and consumes food. These challenges highlight a simple truth. Food security is not merely an agriculture issue. It is a strategic priority for all our countries. Our region, the Balkans, the Black Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean, is at the heart of these shifts. What happens beyond our borders affects our farmers, our communities, and our economies, and no nation can face these challenges alone. Collaboration and dialogue are essential at this point. For Albania, strengthening the agri-food sector is a national priority. Guided by our national strategy for agriculture, rural development, and fishery 2021-2027, we support farmers, promote sustainable systems, and integrate our agriculture into regional and European value chains. Our policies are fully aligned with the European Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy, reflecting our commitment to sustainability and climate adaptation. Albania's European Union integration provides a momentum for modernizing agriculture, improving food safety, and creating new opportunities for farmers and small businesses. These reforms ensure that Albania agriculture is productive, resilient, and ready for the challenges of the 21st century. With FAO support, which representative we have here today, Albania is preparing a working plan for digital agriculture, bringing new technologies and knowledge to our farmers, enhancing productivity, and building resilience against climate and market shocks. Strong partnerships are essential in this effort. By sharing knowledge and working together, we can turn challenges into opportunities and strengthen our region. In this spirit, Albania highly values collaboration. With the proposed MOU with AgriBusiness Forum, represents a concrete step towards deep cooperation whether in research, innovation, or deepening and developing high-value products that connect our food, our culture, and of course, our tourism. Looking ahead, we'd be very honored to host a future edition of this forum in Tirana in October 2026. Strengthening dialogue, reinforcing partnerships, and positioning Albania as a hub for agri-food, innovation, and regional cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close with a thought. Food connects our economies, our societies, and our futures. By investing in farmers' partnership and innovations, we are not only supporting agriculture, we are building resilience, stability, and prosperity for our entire region, while advancing Albania's integration into the European Union, which remains central to our vision for sustainable development and regional cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hajdaraga. Now I would like to give the floor to Mrs. Bengü Şerifoğlu from the European Environmental Agency. Please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Kalispera όλες και όλους σας. Ευχαριστώ πολύ για την πρόσκληση. Greetings. So thank you very much. Food geopolitics in the Balkans, in the Black Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean. Actually, we are not only talking about we are mostly talking about in the beginning like conflicts, maritime routes, energy corridors, and the trade disruption. All of that matters. But today, I will widen the frame because agri-food geopolitics in this region actually is no longer shaped by the only borders or diplomacy, but actually it's being shaped by the climate stress, by water scarcity, supply chain fragility, and unequal capacity to adapt. And let me continue with the slides. Okay, first I want to share a slide with you. This slide is coming from one of our briefings. Here we basically put some figures and it is directly coming from the EU member states. Agriculture and food is recognized as the biggest impacted sector by the climate extremes. So please go ahead and explore our website. In one of our briefings, we have this information. It's about national adaptation plans. Unfortunately, agriculture and food sectors are impacted so much. But as I said before, the agri-food geopolitics in this region are not only shaped by the borders or the diplomacy. It is increasingly shaped by the climate stress, it's increasingly shaped by the water scarcity, by supply chain fragility, and also unequal capacity to adapt. So in other words, the strategic risk is not only geopolitical instability, but actually the interaction between the geopolitical instability and the climate instability. So this matters directly for food production. Across Europe, changing growing conditions, more extreme weathers are already affecting yields, such as Southern Europe. Water availability and water quality are becoming structural constraints. And the deteriorating ecosystems and the marine ecosystems adds another layer of vulnerability for agriculture, fisheries, and aquaculture. I just want to make sure that I have 7 minutes, right? Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, you do.
Thank you. Okay. So, the climate pressures, we are already aware of the climate pressures in this region, but the implications are still underestimated because declining precipitation, heat wave, droughts, and also intense rainfall episodes, they are all, becoming frequent and severe, and these shifts are already affecting our crops, our yields, fruits and vegetables. And also, all these things added another layer to vulnerability of the agriculture. So what's happening when all this happens into these are crops, fruits and staples? Basically, the price spikes, the social stakes, and also there are also the stress on the social part, and also it also puts some pressure on the nutritional security. Maybe I should call it nutritional insecurity as well. So that brings us to food security. In the European context, the key issue is actually not famine. The key issue is accessibility, availability, instability, affordability, and inequality. The food security is not just an agriculture question, it's also a social justice and also a health question. And we know that water is the central here. Here you can see how especially the Southern Europe is being affected by the drought and heat waves and water scarcity. Water, you know, Europe is heavily dependent on water because the irrigation is so much in Europe. And agriculture is also the largest net water using sector, and it puts so much pressure on the water resources, with several countries exceeding the thresholds and sustainable water use. So this is exactly where the European Green Deal, Farm to Fork strategy, common agriculture policy are relevant to this panel. A European Green Deal is not only an environmental agenda. European Green Deal and Farm to Fork strategy and common agricultural policies, actually they are sitting at the heart of the this all set of like framework and implications, and also the ambition is make Europe climate neutral until 2050. They are actually political economy transition, and the credibility depends on the implications. So they are essential for the long-term resilience, but also they are politically delicate. And it does not pretend that the transition will be painless. It actually acknowledges the political economy. Primarily producers, farmers are lagging behind in income. And ensuring a sustainable livelihood is actually indispensable. It is highly important. It also reminds us the social stakes. In Europe, 33 million people cannot afford a high-quality meal every second day. But for this session and for this region, there is another hard truth. Europe actually cannot think only in domestic terms. A heating climate means a fragile supply chain, and also climate-induced disruptions. It also can create shortages, slow production. It also creates price spikes, and also it triggers the cascading and compounding effects across sectors and also borders. Cross-border climate impacts can be as large as the domestic ones. This is especially relevant thing for our Mediterranean region and also for Southeastern Europe, where import dependence and also the exposure and the fiscal constraints can combine into real vulnerability. And the costs are not just theoretical. The estimated economic fallout for Europe from the cross-border climate impacts via trade is around 10 billion euro for a 2 centigrade global warming scenario, and it's about like 27 million euro per year for the 3 centigrade global warming scenario. And these projections actually likely to underestimate the cascading disruptions. So when we talk about regional stability, when we talk about trade diversification, we should be honest. Climate risks already, they are interacting with geopolitical risks, and it will do so more often. So now the agri-food system vulnerability is not only about what we grow. It's also about what we depend on. It's also about what we are importing. So where does this lead security? Food security is multidimensional: availability, accessibility, affordability, utilization, and stability. And EU relies on imports. For example, EU heavily relies on important fertilizer companies. So even when final food availability is not the main concern, production costs and the supply stability can be exposed. And especially, it happens for the livestock and also the input-intensive systems. And then we arrive at the core geography of this region, of this session. This region is strategic hinge between the production zones, trade corridors, and consumption markets, and choke point matters. The Turkish straits handle a significant share of the wheat trade from Black Sea region, and also interland waterways also matter too. Also, Danube corridor is carrying the 23% around the agricultural food and products. So what is the policy implication? It is not simply be more sustainable. It is not simply produce more at home. It is basically build resilience as a strategic capability. And this is where the implementation becomes decisive. Farm to Fork, European Green Deal, common agriculture policy, and the relevant frameworks, they set out a comprehensive vision, but they are politically delicate. Transition policies only work when they project the former viability, when they protect the former viability, and also they keep the food as an affordable component. So we know that being resilient, being climate resilient, being adaptive is not cheap. Adaptation investments actually in agriculture are estimated around 10 billion per year up to 2050. So my closing message actually is simple. In Balkans, in Black Sea, in the Eastern Mediterranean, agri-food geopolitics will increasingly be shaped by the climate stress, water scarcity, supply chain fragility. And of course, the most important thing is by the unequal capacity to adapt. The policy challenge is to build resilience in a way that protects food security, stabilizes supply chain, and supports farmer viability. If you want regional stability, trade diversification, and credible agro-diplomacy, then the resilience, climate resilience especially, must move to the center of this geopolitical area. Because food security is no longer just a question of supply. It's a question of resilience, affordability, water, infrastructure, and political capacity. Thank you.
So, allow me to take the lead if you want. Thank you very much to the ambassadors and the representative of the EU. Gender balanced, we hoped. It would have been 3 and 3, I think. But this states a lot. So allow me to start from my first-hand side. I'll start with the ambassador of Israel. Your Excellency, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It's a great honor to be here. And thank you, the organizer. Thank you, Yanis, for inviting me. When our Minister of Agriculture went into his new post, the first thing that he did, he changed the name of the ministry from the Ministry of Agriculture to the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security. Many cynics in the Israeli politics claim that he did so because he was before the head of the security services of the State of Israel, and he wanted still to touch upon security matters. But in reality, food security is one of the prime responsibilities of a state. It's a promise of a state to its citizens that it will be able to supply them. And one thing that is extremely weird in the field of food security, that it's not one field. It's a variety of fields. Integrative collaboration is needed in order to maintain and have food security at the level of state. You need the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Defense and the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Economy. All these ministries and more has a stake in securing food security at the level of a state. And when we think about the challenges of the State of Israel, I would say that we have a few challenges that I'm sure that many countries around the world are sharing similar, with different intensity, similar challenges. For us, the first thing is that our population is growing. Unlike maybe European state, our population is growing. It almost doubled itself from the 90s till today. The second element is that we have scarcity of resources. Israel is not rich in water and is not rich in arable land, and therefore the capacity of agriculture is limited. Then we have climatic changes that we all feel them. Climatic changes bring a significant change into our world and our agricultural capabilities. The seasons are shorter, there is less water, rain, there are more floods, there are heat waves. All these are impacting the efficiency and the capacity of our agriculture. In addition to that, because we have limited resources, we are highly dependent on import and on chains of supply. 20% of the Israeli daily needs of food, let's say vegetables or meat, are produced in Israel. But even these 20% are limited because we have to import necessary animal food in order to supply them. We don't have enough grains in our, we are not growing enough grains, wheat, soya beans, rice, etc., which is the basic of animal food. So we have instability, inherent instability in our system, and it is even more essential when we think about geopolitical changes. We've seen it during the COVID time. We've seen it during the war between Ukraine and Russia that limited wheat transport and other elements. We see it now. We see it since 2023 when the Houthis blocked the chain of supply through the Red Sea. So we have a lot of instability. We have set a national food security program. It means that we have one ministry that is the Ministry of Agriculture that is in charge to coordinate all the necessary elements, set benchmarks that we will meet our goals in 2050. We are speaking about expanding the production of agriculture, of our agriculture, making it also industrial by the use of technology, biotechnology especially, and moving to produce alternative food from alternative sources. We are increasing the reserves that we have in our capacity. We are diversifying our chains of supply. We are increasing our capacity to defend national infrastructure, whether it's water, whether it's energy, whether it's our chains of supply and our ports. We are working to secure within the country a better logistic mechanism that will enable us to supply. And basically we say technology is a key component now in our strategy to deal with the needs of food security. It's not the only one because, as I said, even with technology, we will be limited in the amounts that we will be able to produce. So the elements are increasing local production, increasing the resilience of supply chains, and creating international and regional collaboration, which is an essential part of these supply chains. The last thing that I would like to say about that when it comes to technology today is essential part of every agriculture. We are changing the concept today of protecting and using protection for farmers, let's say, and their products. But the state is thinking in terms of securing calories. They are not defending certain products. They are defending the combination of calories that we need to supply at every given time. That is a concept that demands also a cultural change within Israel and within its citizens and about consumption of certain food. Maybe I will elaborate on it later. Thank you.
Ambassador Katz, thank you very much for your contribution and your timely first discussion. And allow me now to continue with the representative of the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, Mr. Nabil Gangi. I didn't ask you if you're Lebanese because that Nabil is Lebanese usually, so you can tell us. But he's also the regional representative for Europe and Central Asia. The floor is yours, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And actually, the name is common in Arab countries. I'm originally from Egypt.
Egyptian, Masr.
So, first of all, let me thank the AgriBusiness Forum, the ever so persistent friend of ours, Gianni Balakakis, and he is definitely a friend of FAO. Thank you, and thank you for your ever-growing team of support for this forum today. Ladies and gentlemen, the challenges we face are much more than the Athens drivers, taxi drivers problem or that we have seen. The challenges facing the Balkan countries, Central Asian countries, Black Sea and Eastern Mediterranean are multifaceted. As with other regions in the world, the region grapples with challenges combating malnutrition, improving food security, and revitalizing agri-food systems and rural communities. Sharp increases have been seen in food and energy prices. Inequalities have deepened among vulnerable groups, including
The microphone, please. The microphone, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So inequalities among vulnerable groups. Hello? Yeah. So again, to say inequalities have deepened among vulnerable groups, particularly Roma communities, children, women, and especially in rural areas. Unhealthy diets and poor nutrition. As referenced before, these remain a challenge for our region. Based on the latest estimates, 25.7 million people in the region were unable to afford a healthy diet. Overweight children under 5 years old, 7.1%. And obesity in adults, 25.5%, exceeding global averages. Thank you. So several key drivers shape this instability. First, shocks, including the COVID-19, the war in Ukraine, adverse weather events, earthquakes, have significantly affected the food, energy, and finance sectors. The region is increasingly susceptible to climate change. Rising average in temperatures, increase hygiene and food safety risks associated with the mode of storage of food, commodities, temperature and related conditions, as well as animal and plant pests and disease. In the non-high income countries of the Europe and Central Asia region, the lack of integration of climate change adaptation policies and measures, climate-tolerant crops, etc., with agricultural policy is a common problem. We've seen slower economic growth, representing a critical bottleneck, reflecting contradictions and contractions in the Russian Federation, severe recession in Ukraine, significant slowdown in Turkey. These growth of emerging markets have been almost stopped. So allow me to provide you with a brief overview of FAO's regional interventions facing these problems. The initiative on the safe transportation of grain and foodstuffs from Ukrainian ports, which is so-called Black Sea Grain Initiative, was launched in July 2022, involving the Russian Federation, Turkey, Ukraine, and the United Nations. It aimed at securing safe transport for grains and foodstuffs, easing exports, and facilitating fertilizer exports as well. Again, in response of the EU-Ukraine solidarity lanes were established, providing crucial corridors for agriculture exports and suspending import duties for specific Ukrainian exports. FAO's regional work focuses on three mutually reinforcing priorities: keeping the food flowing, strengthening resilience on farm and along the value chain, and align policy and finance so transactions are fair and feasible. Let me quote a few examples. In Albania, in addition to the digital agriculture and rural transformation to which Her Excellency the Ambassador referred, FAO, together with the Ministry of Agriculture, has supported the recovery and transformation of the chestnut sector following severe pest outbreaks. Through a biological control program and targeted support to post-harvest systems and market linkages, production has been restored while creating new income opportunities through agritourism. This type of interventions is just one example of how integrated action from plant health to value chains can rebuild rural livelihoods and strengthen resilience to future shocks. In Kazakhstan, FAO supported scalable pilots for water-efficient irrigation and salt and drought-tolerant cropping that protect staple in marginal areas, while also advising on market linkages so farmers can capture high value rather than sell at distressed prices after shocks. In Azerbaijan, FAO has partnered with the authorities on value chain modernization and post-harvest storage upgrades, combined with farmer advisory services and digital market information. All this package stabilizes supply, reduces price volatility, contributing to household income and supports nutrition outcomes. These examples are not dissimilar from our work in Serbia, in Romania, in Moldova, in Bosnia, in Montenegro, where we work with national partners to support their work in meeting their aspirations for resilient food productivity, sustainable use of natural resources, while also making food systems less susceptible to shocks, whether climatic, economic, or geopolitical. Now, on the critical matter of conflict, I will close with this as a deliberate emphasis on the ultimate enabler of progress. As Nehru reminded us, without peace, all other aspirations are in vain. When peace fractures, every element we discussed, whether FAO's interventions or national interventions, are in vain. Trade markets, storage, nutrition, shipping routes, and trust are eroded. Conflicts disrupt ports and corridors, spike insurance and freight costs, divert public resources, let alone attention, to defense, and displace populations into heightened food vulnerability. They leave lasting scars on humans, on natural resources, and rural livelihoods that take decades to heal. We must therefore champion the virtues of cooperation over the arrogance of power. FAO's role is to bridge technical action with diplomacy, to provide data that informs de-escalation, to design humanitarian to development pathways, to protect food systems. In closing, the path forward is not a choice between growth and sustainability, or between sovereignty and cooperation. It is about pragmatic partnerships that protect people's right to food today while building resilience that secures tomorrow. FAO stands ready to work with governments, private sector, and civil society in this forum and beyond to turn those partnerships into concrete pilots and scaled investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Shukran. Thank you very much, Mr. Gangi. It was a pleasure. So let me just go. I made two distinctions while you were talking, is that we got the Balkans, the Southeast Med, and the MENA region all combined together in one panel. And that's really quite interesting. In the pleasure of people talking about the importance of food and agriculture, scarcity of resources, and so on and so forth. So allow me now to go to my dear friend and compatriot as well, the ambassador of Cyprus, Mr. Avgoustides. Dear sir, the floor is yours. Thank you.
I will speak in Greek.
Sure. Ναι. Στα ελληνικά. Παρακαλώ πολύ, αν θέλετε να ακούσετε στα translators.
But I can't.
1 minute. No. If anybody does not have who wants to hear in English, please raise your hand so they can bring you one of the translation sets. 1, 2. Definitely for the panelists, we need 2, please. 3.
You don't speak,
3.
you speak?
I'm sorry, 3. Right. So 3 translators,
I
please.
understand. But...
So in the meantime...
Συγγνώμη γι' αυτό, αλλά...
Όχι.
Όντας στην Ελλάδα, μισό λεπτό μέχρι να το φέρουν για να συνεχίσετε. Ναι, κανένα πρόβλημα.
Allow me for changing, excuse me for changing the language, but since we are in Greece, I'd like to speak in Greek.
So the ambassador can also speak in Greek. So I guess after the speech of Mr. Avgoustides, what we're going to do is we're going to open the floor for statements. So I guess all the speakers, you should prepare yourselves for a statement of several minutes. And then
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
And
3 minutes.
We'll open the floor
and then
to...
Mr. Kappas will open the floor with your questions and the audience questions as well. And this is a small remark in order to win a bit of time, and we can avoid things. Ένα λεπτό και να αρχίσουμε. Ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ.
Thank you very much. Mr. Avgoustides, dear ambassador, allow me to thank the organizers, the moderators, of course, all the panelists and our audience today. It is a great honor for me to attend this forum. There is a lot of work behind it. One more year. Congratulate to Mr. Balakakis for his efforts and, of course, for adding Cyprus and involving Cyprus to this process. I've created and drafted a short speech, And let me start. During the last few years, it's become more evident that agriculture and food security is not just an issue of production or the market. It is a crucial factor for financial stability, geopolitical influence, and strategic security for the different nations. The conflicts and the disruptions at the different change, the impact of climate change have shown us that the food security is at the top level. Our region, Cyprus, is at the epicenter of these changes. The Eastern Mediterranean is seeing and is going through the challenges and the effects of climate change regarding the use of natural resources and food security. In this environment, being, of course, able to compete and secure these agri-food systems is of great importance. The use of innovation, new technologies, and digitalization are important tools to improve, of course, efficiency. At the same time, we need to include our farmers and inform them about the different financing tools in order to keep their productions high. At the European framework, the increase of resilience of those agri-food systems is of great importance, and it is a priority as well as a priority of the presidency of the Republic of Cyprus at the current period of the European Union presidency. Allow me to briefly mention two examples of challenges in our area. The first one, of course, has to do with the health issues, health dangers that influence the agricultural production a lot. Cyprus has been called to manage a very serious issue of sun fever, and this shows that we are very easily being affected from those challenges, how these challenges can be transferred from one area to the other, and let us not forget the occupation that some countries have to undergo. We should also mention the spread of the different diseases and the quarantine that comes hand in hand with it. So these challenges need more surveillance, need more cooperation, strategic cooperations. The COVID crisis and the different crises, the geopolitical crisis as well, have taught us one thing: we should not take things for granted. We should be ready, always ready, for the most dangerous thing, the most difficult thing, for the next big challenge. It is, of course, very difficult for people, for governments, but it has to be done. The next issue, and one of the most important for the Eastern Mediterranean, and it has already been mentioned from Mr. Guides, it is the issue of water scarcity. Our region has to face important challenges, unforeseen challenges, and Cyprus as well, because of the climate change, and this makes things even harder. So the effects on the agricultural sector, at the food security, the, of course, geopolitical stability are direct. We're going through them with great intensity, and one thing is for sure: no country can undergo and succeed against those challenges alone. So we need collaboration, we need solidarity. We need solidarity at a regional, national, and international level. We need to create infrastructure, we need to implement innovation, know-how, we need to educate and train people through collaboration of universities, experts, and a few minutes ago I had the great chance to meet professors of university professors from Greece and abroad that are experts on the agricultural sector. So, all in all, we need regional collaboration, we need a common know-how, and of course, synchronized policies. And here lies the basic message, the important message of today's discussion. We are going through times of geopolitical tensions, climate tensions, and we've already talked about the importance of resilience of our of the agri-food sector. Noam also talked about this. So we need to be able to collaborate, to be prepared, to act proactively, to work on prevention, to remove from our systems this tension, to resolve things like the firefighters do. So that means after a fire has broke out, to put it down. And everything will, of course, will happen if we manage to collaborate. We, Greece, have signed MOUs with Greece, Israel, and other countries, and I believe that our region in the Eastern Mediterranean, Southeastern Mediterranean, has great capabilities on the topics of and the sectors of production, innovation, and many more sectors. So we will be able, if we collaborate, share knowledge and the innovations, we will be able to turn the challenges into opportunities for a more resilient, sustainable agri-food security system. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador.
I would like to say that I have known Mr. Avgoustides when he was, since our acquaintance dates back to when he was the ambassador of Cyprus to Saudi Arabia. So he was very much involved in this trade between Middle East and EU. Now I would like to give the floor.
Please take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ftimiopoulos, and thanks all the speakers for this first round of presentations. And I believe it was really crucial to give the setting of the area, of your countries that you represent. I heard a lot, the word resilience by all the speakers. Now we will pass to the second phase, which will be a question that I would like you to answer in a 3-minute statement. So I will keep the same order. I will start with you, Mrs. Hajdaraga. And since you mentioned also resilience and stability, which was also mentioned by most of the speakers, I would like to ask you, how strong is the primary sector in Albania today? And how do you see the potential for stronger agri-food cooperation between Albania and neighboring countries in order to enhance the regional food security and resilient supply chains?
Thank you for this question. In Albania, agriculture is more than a sector, it's a way of life because 40% of our people are dependent on or work in this sector, and 20% of our GDP is consumed, it's part of the sector as well. So it's both an economic and a social sector. In the recent years, we have moved from small family farms to modern farms and to the EU alignment policies, as I mentioned before. Farmers now use applications to check weather, soil, and irrigations, which have helped them to advance in this process. So technology is a very important part of our agriculture system now. And through our national strategy and support from IPART and other funds, our farmers have been able to training processes, machinery, and new technologies. I would like to mention some advantages and some details on the Albania agriculture, which I think it's very important to share, not only for the country, but also for the region. So our advantages are favorable climate and fertile land, explosion of irrigation system, which we are now trying to spread in all the country, increasing in investments and support both from the government and from the EU funds, strong export potential. Our target is 1 billion euros by 2030, and we have very positive indicators in export with Greece. Recently, in the first months of the year, we have tripled our export with Greece, which is a very good indicator, and also the development of agritourism, which is actually a new field, but it's increasing and is contributing in our economy and in our agritourism. As we say in Albania, agriculture and agritourism sit and eat on the same table. Coming back to your question, our collaboration is very important with our neighbors, and especially Greece being one of them. Our Minister of Agriculture visited Athens last month, and we are planning to bring agritourism routes, farmer training, and shared quality standards for our farmers in order to create better opportunities for them. As well, trade with Greece has grown over 50% in the 2 last years. So farmers on both sides are benefiting on food security, and our region is getting stronger. So our motto is that our strength is working together for our people, for our land, and for our economies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hajdaraga. I would like now to give the floor to Mrs. Şerifoğlu. You mentioned a lot about climate change and the need for climate resilience. So I would like to ask you, how are climate extremes at the moment transforming agri-food risks from a purely environmental issue into a broader geopolitical and security concern for regions such as Europe and the Mediterranean?
Thank you very much for the question. So, you know, when I said in the beginning of my speech, agri-food geopolitics in this region, Black Sea, Balkans, Eastern Mediterranean, they are not shaped by the borders or the diplomacy. They are basically shaped by the climate resilience, as I said before, stressed before, but the water scarcity and supply chain fragility, and also unequal capacity to adapt. So there is, of course, there are some mechanisms to make it happen. There are some mechanisms to make it like more resilient, more adaptive for the people. For example, farm-to-fork strategy, EU Green Deal, common agriculture policies. These strategies are already trying to make it better. But the important thing is, as I had mentioned before, they are delicate. So in order to continue, in order to like make this transition happen, the policies work when they protect the farm viability. These policies works when they, keep food affordable. And also, from if the transition costs faster, rise faster than both the farmers and the consumers can absorb, then the result will not be resilience. So, Farm to Fork starts from a strong relevant premise, because a food system, if a food system cannot be resilient, if it's not sustainable, then it doesn't work. But it also implicitly raises the bar for Europe, and for this wider neighborhood, because it asks for the food systems to deliver multiple outcomes at once: climate mitigation, adaptation, biodiversity protection, lower pollution, healthier diets, and the fairer economic returns in the supply chain. So this is exactly where the politics begin. So, for example, first of all, in order to respond to this question regarding also including the mechanisms that has been currently processed in the European Union, for and foremost is the affordability and social legitimacy. The strategy, all these European Green Deal, common agriculture policies, or all the farm to fork strategies, they are all acknowledged as a hard reality. For example, as I said before, 33 million people in EU cannot afford a healthy meal every second day, while roughly 20% of food is wasted, and over half of adults are overweight. It also states that in 2017, unhealthy diets were linked to around over 950,000 deaths and over 60 million lost healthy life years. So this is not only production, it's about the food environment, it's about the public health, inequality, and those pressures are politically explosive in times of inflation. Of course, the other thing is farmer viability. The climate stress is pressuring hard. There is water scarcity. And all of this combination leave the farmers, it's desperate. A transition that raises expectations but does not protect livelihoods will fail. So that's why it should be a strategy to explicit ensuring the sustainable livelihood for the farmers. Third, the implementation of the discipline. Farm to Fork sets concrete targets that will shape the competitiveness and trade. For example, 50% reduction in the overall use and risk of chemicals, 50% reduction in antimicrobial cells. So there are lots of targets, and that's very good that we are having it. But these targets are important. But the geopolitical point is this: implementation will reshape incentives, costs and trade relationships across the Balkans, Black Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean. So, conclusion is simple. Farm to fork, climate stress, all the directives, all the strategies, we have this reality: climate stress and water scarcity, and it leads to a fragile supply chain, and it has a right diagnosis in the end. That's good, but legitimacy will depend on whether sustainability can be delivered without making the food less affordable, without weakening the farmer viability, and without deepening regional inequalities in the capacity to adapt. So, as I said, this is, regarding the geopolitics part, it's no longer shaped by the borders. It's no longer shaped by the diplomacy. It's no longer only shaped by the conflicts. It's shaped by the water stress and climate stress. That's why I want to repeat this one more time, that resilience, especially the climate resilience, must move to the center of the geopolitical arena. Because food security is no longer just a question of supply. Even from the Europe perspective, even there is no famine, we have selective food security, and we have nutritional food insecurity. So, as I said, it's a question of resilience, affordability, water and infrastructure, and political capacity. I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Although I wanted to make a comment on these last parts, because I was thinking more like the Ethiopian dam, or the Tigris and Euphrates in Iraq, or the issues that have passed in the last years with, the utility and the importance of the Suez Canal, if things would have been in progress or in problem about the water coming in and out, because this is important with regards to a unique reality. But that unique reality, unfortunately, is defined by war situations, unfortunately. In those earlier moments when we spoke about those choke points is exactly why things are happening, for the reason why they're happening. On the other side, this is why we have the United Nations, or why we have the EU. but they have to get their act together. I mean, that's a personal comment. They have to get their act together and be decisive rather than being multilinguistic when time comes into important elements. Having said that, allow me to move along now to the Israeli ambassador, if you may allow, Your Excellency. I have several questions, and I think some of those we touched in the coffee break, but I want to know a bit more. Maybe you can enlighten us. One of the things that I've noticed throughout my years, both as an academic and policymaker, is that Israel was always in forefront of the R&D. And one of the things that I told, we were talking earlier, is in every meeting, especially when, the relations were re-emergence, were happening, even in the Arab Gulf, if I remember correct, one of the first elements was water, technology, food security, food elements, even in the logistical part. So I know that you have a national strategy, and I know you have a national strategy to 2050. My first question is, you're not part of the EU, but you're wider. So the EU has standards for the EU itself. You don't, but you have higher standards, different standards, plus all the volatility in the region. How do you do it? How is it important? Why? I know when my first visit in Israel, the first thing that they told me that this was not fertile. Now it is. How did you manage it, and how do you export this knowledge? Thank you.
Well, I would say that when you have scarcity of resources like water, or as I said, land, you rely on technology and research as multiplier. If you want to have better production, if you want to have more efficient production, then you have to rely on science and technology, and you have to build a system that will allow this technological development and innovation to be integrated fast into the system. So in Israel, right from the beginning, the triangle of research and technology, extension services, and the farmers was very strong, right from the beginning. And this combination allow each one to either float up challenges and problems, and also solution, and then to translate them into effective use. If you take the basic, which is water, land, and animals, when you speak about agriculture, today we add to this biology and biotechnology, industry, and a very successful use of data. Let's start with water. Israel is scarce in water, and Israel is one of the best countries to develop recycle and water management and precise irrigation. That is more than irrigation. It's including also the nutrition, the needed fertilizers, sometimes even taking care of plants in plantation diseases. So water is essential, and Israel is suffering from lack of water for agriculture, but also for daily use and also for industrial use, and therefore we recycle. We recycle 90% of the brackish water and the sewage water. We desalinate, and we develop an agriculture that has enough resources now to sustain itself. We are speaking about precision agriculture. So it's much more effective. The technologies are ripe, and therefore we can export them to others. And when we export water technologies or precision agriculture technologies, we are selling something that is already tested. So people, consumers around the world are feeling much more secure when they have it. We are developing now a vertical agriculture. First, logistically, it brings the food closer to the cities, and secondly, it gives you more ability to generate food. We are focusing on reducing waste by post-harvest, by increasing the shelf life of product, and by that you have more available food. We are developing seeds and crops that are suitable for the climatic changes. We experiment with them, and then we share them with the farmers, and this is one of our main exports outside. We are developing now alternative food. That's not yet, it has high potential. It's not yet fully commercial. We just started to sell in our supermarkets artificial milk. It's not soya milk, it's milk, but produced in factories and not from the cows. And we are developing the development of growing meat. All these kind of things will be industrial solutions to our needs. As I said, whatever we do with that, our main agricultural export is the scientific and the scientific technologies and capabilities of the State of Israel that are shared with others. And still, we will have some basic elements that we will not be able to compensate through technology. And still, we will have to be dependent on collaboration with other countries, and still we will have to be dependent on supply chains and good neighborhood in our neighbor and beyond.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's good food for thought with regards to the water issue that Ms. Şerifoğlu said, pointed quite well in the region overall. I know that Cyprus has a huge problem with that as well. But one of the things I want to put in the audience as well to think is desalinization also. The use of desalinization is something that in Turkey, Cyprus, Greece, and Israel, I know that these are countries that have the potential for more growth because these are agricultural countries, as it was shown also in the map. They have a huge necessity for that. So let me just turn over to Mr. Gangi. Ms. Şerifoğlu said it quite well, strategic resilience. I will add strategic assets to what she said. And she's correct in multiple ways because when you're representing an international organization like the European Union or the United Nations, you have to think globally, you have to think collectively, and that's well understood. I want to know a bit, how do you combine all these elements, like the energy stuff and the commodities, the capability to take a decision? FAO has been also in scrutiny by President Trump a few months ago, with some elements of funding and stuff like that, but FAO is really needed, that we all know and we all acknowledge. But how do you cope with this? It was a similar question that I said to Professor Prevelakis in the morning. How do you combine the works of an international organization? And this can also go to Ms. Şerifoğlu, by the way, if you want to answer as well. Just follow my lead on this because I have follow-ups, very short answers, so I can follow up. Thank you.
Thank you.
With the mic, please, with the mic.
So, similar to the EU, we don't represent the interests of one country. But dissimilar to the EU, we represent more than the interest of 28 countries, rather 194 countries. So it's a more difficult, let's say, area to find. Food and agriculture policy shifts from a developmental and humanitarian issue to a strategic asset during times of crisis. Indeed, we've heard how the word security within a society that has got a particular psyche about security has been sort of associated with agriculture and food. The shift happens towards seeing food as a strategic asset or a leverage for diplomacy or a potential weapon to further geopolitical alignments. Focus of governments during these times, or the current US-Israel-Iran war being a prime example, switches from nurturing the food insecure and nutritionally vulnerable groups to securing food supply chains in order to protect national interests. In the Balkans, Black Sea, and Eastern Mediterranean, we see food policy debates are moving away from ensuring the dimensions of food security, access, availability, utilization, and stability, to food sovereignty, as has been mentioned by Professor earlier in the panel, self-sufficiency due to conflicts, high food prices, supply chain shocks, and climate-related stresses. During a virtual consultation that took place in January 2023 and organized by FAO Regional Office for Europe and Central Asia, many countries acknowledged food security challenges due to the increased cost of living. To safeguard food availability, most nations supported primary production through farm and market support measures. In addition to these steps, countries have implemented tax reductions, trade restrictions, export limitations, indeed pension revisions and valorization schemes. And despite these efforts, countries have sought FAO's assistance in collecting data and information, identified as a major bottleneck for timely and efficient-based responses. There are structural inequalities in food systems across the region. You see an increasing population in the South Mediterranean, while as it's a much lesser situation or issue in the northern Mediterranean shores. So geopolitics seem to deepen the division of North and South. Agri-food system landscapes across the Mediterranean can be highly divergent. We've heard from His Excellency Ambassador Israel about how the arid lands and so forth have pressured the population to identify and to find solutions for that. Northern Mediterranean boasts diversified, high productivity agri-food systems, whereas the Southern Mediterranean countries have become increasingly dependent on food imports over the past few decades. High population growth and so forth, volatile food prices, political instability, all have further exacerbated the food import dependence, threatening food security and nutrition. Conflict in Ukraine, as well as just an example. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shukran. Shukran. Shukran, Nabil. Ms. Şerifoğlu, I'll give you one minute the floor if you want as EU rep, because EU is important as well. 132 are very difficult. What about 27 strong?
Okay, I can make actually a comment, a follow-up comment on this. So, European Environment Agency, we are representing both EU 27 countries and also all European countries, EU 38 we are calling them. So there are all member states, also like the other states, the other countries who are not currently a part of European Union, but also still in Europe, and then they are also like part of our organizations as well. So, of course, when you saw the map regarding the water scarcity, and we have like several maps about that, water scarcity or like food security, agricultural production. Well, Southern Europe, Spain, Turkey, Greece, Portugal, actually, those regions are the breadbasket of Europe. Unfortunately, due to climate pressures, heat waves, droughts, and they are intensifying, and water scarcity, the agricultural production is currently under constraints. And not only under constraint due to like climate stress, but also they are under constraint on the outside price volatility, price shocks. So the situation currently, of course, from the climate perspective, not nice. But, of course, there are lots of works. So, we have this, for example...
One example.
For example, I'm going to talk about the newest example. Actually, it's my briefing. We just published it yesterday. It's called the economic perspective on the agriculture in Europe. So we try to explain how the climate caused to these countries. And the important thing is, one important result is reducing reducing the dependency. When we reduce the dependency, climate resilient farm level climate resilient practices or the land level climate resilient practices actually can be done. It's doable. The important thing is, as lots of the speakers, participants say, they need some support, they need farmer viability, we need some protection from the consumer parts, and then, we need some, doesn't allow the spike of the prices regarding the consumers from the food prices. Right. So these, because they are intertwined and they lead to supply chain fragility. So the topic is huge. I can't talk more, but since my limited time, yeah. So,
but that's a good message for entrance country Albania into the EU. How complicated the EU can be. I don't know if you want to add 10 seconds so I can go to the ambassador of Cyprus, but you're more than welcome.
Of course, EU is at the top of our agenda, but I can say that agriculture at this point is doing really well. We are undergoing very important reforms, but agriculture being one of them, it's our priority, and our farmers are being very competitive, and we believe that this is one of the strongest points that we have so far.
Thank you, appreciate it. Having said that, Cyprus has the presidency of the European Union. And good luck with all these things happening. From January 1st, it has been very exciting moments for Cyprus as a presidency for the European Council. And now, not only war, but you also mentioned another issue that is really important for Cyprus. Tell me, Mr. Ambassador, I'm not going to ask you about what is happening in Cyprus, but how do you coordinate the EU 27 plus your regional alliances, plus the regional conflicting areas with regards to trade, business, and what should people do? Because some people may be afraid of all these things happening, but I'm the first one to say that it's quite safe, quite well, and quite open for business. What's your intake, sir?
Well, όλοι γνωρίζουμε τις δυσκολίες.
We are all aware of the difficulties we are faced with due to the geopolitical situation. Cyprus, as I said before, is faced with other issues as well that have an impact on the agri-food systems and on agriculture in general. As I said before, there are issues related to the uncertainty, transport uncertainty and instability, the uncertainty regarding logistics, the increase of logistics cost. Don't forget that Cyprus is one of the largest shipping powers all around the world. There are many ships registered in our country, so there is an impact on that as well. So yes, we now have the presidency of the EU, but at the same time, life goes on. In Cyprus right now, we are trying to continue with our presidency. There are achievements in many areas that will start becoming more evident. Right now, we are pursuing more contacts. We believe in ourselves that we will make it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. I would like to say that the Cyprus presidency of the EU is really successful, specifically taking into account the general circumstances around the world. Now, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Kapas.
Questions from the audience, so please feel free to ask any of the panelists or a general question. Please state your name and if you represent an organization, who is this? Thank you. Please, any questions from the audience? Just raise hands.
And please be short to the question so we can have a short answer. One question? Hold on. There's a mic coming.
So congratulations on your very interesting contributions. I just have one question. How do you factor in, if you know, biodiversity, which is very important around the Mediterranean area and the Balkan region in your strategy for the next day in agriculture? if you may give a brief
Is it
assessment.
to
Thank you.
all or?
No, even just one.
Okay, who wants to go? None?
Shall we name Ms.
We can answer, but
Şerifoğlu?
it'll
Yes,
take long.
please.
I think that the European Union will answer on our...
Okay, as I mentioned, I'm representing European Environment Agency. So regarding the biodiversity, it is actually sitting at the heart of all of these things. And agriculture, biodiversity, ecosystems, terrestrial ecosystems, they are inseparable. And especially for the last months, the member states already talking about the nature-based solutions as well. So, as I said before, these are the main components, and they should be strengthened in every possible way. And as I had mentioned before, there are, of course, some mechanisms to strengthen all these components. It's also like included in the European Green Deal, from the farm-to-fork strategy, from the agricultural directives, from water scarcity, water resilience directives. So we all have lots of the mechanisms. But as I said before, these are also politically delicate. So the transition requires some effective ways. In order to increase the efficiency, to touch all these topics and to make them resilient, because this is, regarding from the technical wise, scientific wise, this is our role. We are not working on the policies, but we are making a scientific base, scientific research to connect the politics and policies to make the Europe achieve its goals. In order to make them more resilient, of course, we are producing alternatives, lots of options. So yes, that's a very good point to discuss. And currently, we have several mechanisms to make it more, let's say, to strengthen them. Thank you.
If I may.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Cabas.
Just to add to that, actually, I've been very pleased actually to be seeing that biodiversity is really a pillar in maintaining natural resources projects, from Montenegro and Serbian forests to Kazakhstan's slopes and Kyrgyzstan. And this have all contributed to, let's say, solutions, I would say, not only natural-based solutions, but primarily scientific and evidence-based solutions in our interventions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just to mention for the record that the question was by Mr. Kidzios, Rector of the Agricultural University of Athens. I don't think that we have any other... the gentleman over there, behind the screen.
Good afternoon. My name is Konstantin Kakousis. I have a very short question and just for the record, a long one. The long question would be, since the 1990s, there was a UNEP committee on the desertification of the Mediterranean. What happened all those years? I mean, nothing has happened, it seems. So that's the long question, and it would be a very long answer. The short question, mostly to His Excellency the Ambassador of Israel, what would be the ratio of energy to replace the water all our countries are lacking now? I mean, we're facing droughts. How much energy would we need to make it up for the lack of water, whether it be by desalination or other solutions? Thank you very much.
Well, it's a tough question. I don't know the numbers, but I know that you need a lot of energy in order to produce water from a process like desalination. And it's certainly part of the reality, not only of Israel, but of many countries in the region, that we have to take into account when we calculate our energy needs. And on water, we cannot compromise, because compromising on water is compromising on life. What we have to do is to use more efficiently the water that we have. And that is also part of the balancing of the use of energy. And also we would like to have better ways to produce energy that are more sustainable and that are less creating carbon emission. When I think about efficiency, precision and targeted systems of irrigation are part of it. Reuse and recycling, maintaining your lower aquifer and preventing them from being salinated. All these are necessary projects. They demand energy, and we have to create the necessary energy for that.
Thank you.
I think also we might need to add one element. It's not a matter only of energy, but really of the outputs of this desalination. The increased salinity in the Gulf countries, basically shores, is again a case in point. The downstream pollution that basically touches other countries in some areas, that's another also area of consideration.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We need to close this up. So I would like to, first of all, thank our esteemed panelists and their excellencies for this very in-depth analysis of such a difficult issue. I would like to thank, of course, AgriBusiness Forums, all the audience, and of course, Mr. Efthimiopoulos. And I don't know if you have a last remark,
Thank you.
Mario?
No, I wanted to thank also the
question,
panelists,
no?
their excellencies, and yourself as well. And Mr. Balakakis, thank you very much again for trusting us. I think